Have you ever wondered why, despite its immense destruction, war seems to be a recurring feature of human history? It's not because leaders love chaos. The hard truth is, war is profitable. Not because destruction itself creates wealth, but because it redirects vast sums of money, labor, and innovation into very specific, high-demand sectors. In the next few minutes, we're going to break down, from a financial and technological lens, exactly how conflict fuels economies and enriches a select few. We'll look at everything from government spending and defense stocks to technology, energy markets, and even the reconstruction boom that follows. Let's start with the most direct impact: government spending. War forces governments to spend massively and immediately. Defense budgets don't just creep up. They explode overnight. Supply chains that were dormant roar to life. Factories that were idle start churning out weapons, vehicles, and ammunition at record speed. Think about World War II. In the United States, federal spending increased by over 900%. This wasn't just money disappearing into a void. It was a massive economic injection. Military production pushed US GDP up by a staggering 75% between 1939 and 1945. What about jobs? Unemployment plummeted from a crippling 14% to under 2%. In purely macroeconomic terms, war acts like a powerful, if grim, stimulus package. It forces production, it forces employment, and it forces consumption, even though the final product is designed for destruction. Now, let's talk about the industry at the heart of it all, the defense sector. The defense industry is one of the most stable and profitable machines in existence. Why? Because these companies operate on long-term government contracts that are virtually recession-proof. When a conflict breaks out, you'll often see the stock prices of firms like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Raytheon surge. They profit from a multi-layered business model. First, there's the initial manufacturing of weapons and advanced vehicles. Then, there's the provision of high-tech cybersecurity and communications systems, which are critical in modern warfare. They also maintain the defense infrastructure itself. And perhaps most lucratively, they sell replacement parts and upgrades for decades after the initial sale. Once a government commits to a military campaign, defense spending becomes politically untouchable, guaranteeing a continuous, massive revenue stream for these corporations. But the economic impact doesn't stop with weapons. Paradoxically, the intense pressure of war accelerates technological innovation, which often spills over into our everyday civilian lives. Many of the technologies we take for granted today have their roots in military research. The Internet. It began as a decentralized communication network designed to survive a nuclear attack. GPS, which guides you to your favorite coffee shop, was developed for military navigation. Radar, jet engines, even the humble microwave ovenor were born from military-funded research and development. During the Cold War, the massive government spending on computing and aerospace laid the very foundation for what would become Silicon Valley. So, while war itself is horrifically destructive, the technological ecosystems it creates can, ironically, yield enormous economic gains for decades after the fighting has stopped. Next, consider the energy and commodity markets. Conflict is a major driver of volatility, and volatility is where traders can make a fortune. When a major conflict erupts, especially in a resource-rich region, it sends shockwaves through the markets for oil, natural gas, and essential metals, leading to dramatic price spikes. Energy producers, whether they're entire nations or multinational corporations, can profit enormously. A stark example is the 2003 Iraq War, which saw the price of oil skyrocket from around $30 a barrel to over $140, enriching oil producers across the globe. Beyond that, the logistics of war demand immense quantities of fuel for tanks and planes, metals for munitions, and rare earth materials for advanced electronics. This feeds a frenzy in the commodity markets, and the traders and hedge funds who can anticipate these geopolitical shifts often walk away with billions. But the profit cycle doesn't end when the shooting stops. In fact, a whole new wave of opportunity begins. Reconstruction. After a war devastates a country, the monumental task of rebuilding begins, and this can be just as lucrative as the conflict itself. Private contractors and multinational firms pour into war-torn regions to rebuild everything. We're talking about infrastructure like roads, ports, and power grids. We're talking about financial systems, telecommunications, networks, and even government institutions. For example, the reconstruction contracts in Iraq after the 2003 invasion were worth over $138 billion. Major firms from the US and Europe secured these contracts, reaping enormous profits from rebuilding what was destroyed, sometimes by weapons their own countries had sold. It's a grim, circular economy. Large-scale conflict does more than just destroy infrastructure. It reshapes the entire global economic order. War has the power to destroy competition and completely reset who controls key markets, especially in arms, shipping, and energy. Look at the aftermath of World War II. The United States emerged as the undisputed economic superpower. It wasn't just a military victory. It was an economic one. The US gained control over the global currency, with the dollar being established as the world standard at Bretton Woods. It shaped international trade policy through initiatives like the Marshall Plan, and it dominated global finance through its influence over the World Bank and the IMF. In essence, war is the ultimate tool for reshaping the global financial order. And the victors get to write the new rules that benefit them for generations. So how are these incredibly expensive wars paid for? Primarily through debt. And debt is highly profitable for the banking and bond industries. To finance a war, governments issue massive amounts of debt, often in the form of war bonds. Investors ranging from large financial institutions to ordinary citizens buy these bonds and earn interest over time. During World War I and II, buying war bonds was framed as a patriotic duty, raising billions of dollars while simultaneously stimulating domestic capital markets. Today, defense-related debt continues to be a significant part of the bond market. The high interest payments on this national debt become a steady, predictable income stream for financiers and bondholders, creating a powerful incentive within the financial sector to support government borrowing for military spending. One of the most misleading aspects of a war economy is how it makes a country look on paper. The key economic indicators GDP, employment, productional seem to shoot up. High employment, factories running at full capacity, rising GDP. It looks like a booming economy, but this masks a dark reality. Much of that economic activity is producing goods that destroy value rather than create or sustain it. This is the Keynesian paradox of war. It stimulates demand and puts people to work, but it erodes a nation's long-term productive capacity. A factory making bombs isn't making tractors or building houses. Still, for politicians and short-term investors, those headline numbers look like success, making it seem paradoxically that war is making the economy prosperous, even as it hollows it out from the inside. And the profitability isn't limited to traditional industries. Modern warfare is just as much about information and data dominance as it is about physical control. This has opened up new revenue streams for the tech and surveillance industries. AI-driven targeting systems, commercial satellite imagery, advanced cybersecurity, and even digital propaganda all feed multi-billion-dollar industries. The world's biggest tech giants often receive lucrative defense contracts. Remember Amazon's bid for the $10 billion Jedi Cloud contract with the Pentagon. Tech companies are hired for their cloud infrastructure, AI research for surveillance and analysis, and their expertise in cyber defense and encryption. So, even companies that don't make a single bullet are still profiting handsomely from the modern war economy. So, it's clear that war is profitable. But here's the most crucial point. It is not sustainable. While war can temporarily enrich a select group of nations, corporations, and investors, the long-term financial cost is catastrophic for everyone else. The destruction of infrastructure, the tragic loss of human capital, runaway inflation, and crippling national debt all accumulate into a burden that can last for generations. A study from Brown University estimated that the Iraq and Afghanistan wars will ultimately cost the US taxpayer around $8 trillion. And that's not the end of it. The long-term costs for veteran care and the interest payments on the war debt will continue to be paid until 2050 and beyond. The paradox is stark. War is a mechanism that enriches the few but impoverishes the many. It's a powerful short-term economic stimulant, but a devastating long-term fiscal poison. Thank you so much for sticking with us through that deep dive. It's a complex and often uncomfortable topic, but understanding the financial incentives behind conflict is incredibly important. But if you found this analysis valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. We love hearing from you, so drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.